So welcome everyone. So this is the Umpire Q&A webinar, and I'm pleased to confirm that Sue Manson's with us this evening. So Sue is part of our England coaching squad, and she is a national tester and one of our fantastic Rounders England tutors. And it's just also a big thank you to Claire Eckersley and Rod Gass as well, who supported Sue in answering the questions that we received from you. So we'll just move on to that first question, Sue. So what is the ruling with regards to a player arriving late to play a league game?
Well, firstly, good evening, everyone. It's lovely to have you all on the call. The rules currently only stipulate to say that the umpires must have a batting order before a team starts its batting innings. So if a player arrives late, if they're fielding, so if their side is fielding, they'd be able to join at the next dead ball situation, I say, with the umpire's permission. That's if there's fewer than 9 players on the pitch already. Or as say, if there's already 9 players on the pitch, as say the normal sub rule for fielding would apply, which is at any dead ball situation. If, as say, the team is batting, so long as say their name has been added to that batting list prior to the innings started, then they'll be able to join in that innings the next time their name is called, if they're listed as player 1 to 9, or as say, if they're listed as one of the substitutes, then they could be subbed in as say, according as say to the batting substitution rule.
Lovely. So I'll just pause there, and if anyone's got any questions or additional questions with regards to the player notice. No? Okay, so I'll move on to question 2. So this one's around 2 consecutive no balls. So based on the Rounders England rules, when 2 consecutive no balls are delivered to the same batter, this results in a penalty half rounder being awarded to the batting team. The second no ball is taken by the batter, so the same number of balls will still be called again in the limited balls game, since a no ball does not count as a good ball. But once that second no ball is taken, does it void the half rounder penalty awarded to the batting team for 2 consecutive no balls?
No, again, the half stands as say whether the no ball's taken or not. A batter is deemed to have taken a no ball when they're within reach of first post, and that is judged by being an outstretched arm and outstretched bat. Until that point, they can just turn around and come back to the batting square to receive another ball. You don't need to shout taken or anything like that. If the no ball is to 2 different batters, then obviously they're not consecutive to the same batter. And although the same ball number would be called until a good ball is bowled, it would only be if it's to the same batter. There is one exception to that rule, however. If, you're the final batter and you get the choice of the 3 good balls, if you decide, to run on a no ball and get round to 4th post, touch 4th post and score a rounder, after you've had your minute's rest, you come back into the square again to receive a further 3 good balls. Again, if your first ball is a no ball, although it's 2 no balls in a row to the same batter, because they've run round the track, it wouldn't count as a half rounder.
Okay, so again, we'll just open that to the floor. If anyone's got any additional questions with regards to 2 consecutive new balls. Oh, George, you've raised a hand.
I have. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Sue. Thanks for
Hi, George.
giving up your time for tonight. Just a quick question. With the second no ball, if you're playing indoors, does that get called as when the batter runs on again? Does that count as giving them kind of an extra ball or not?
It depends, if you're playing a limited ball game, always, which I know the England Rounders rules only apply to the full 2 all-out innings, but I know a lot of sides do play limited ball. So it would apply at any time, if a no ball is taken, it does not count as one of the good balls. So that same ball number would be called again.
Thank you.
Okay. So question 3, this time we're talking about a body ball. So if the bowler bowls what looks like it's going to be a no ball, because the batter steps away from it, so they thought it was going to hit the body, so they've moved out of the way, does this count as a good ball, or should the batter have stayed and let the ball hit them to be considered a body ball?
I admire the batter that would stand still and say, and actually let the ball hit them. No, basically, if the umpire judges to say that it would be a body ball, which is judged to say by the position that the batter is standing in, as say when the bowler releases the ball, then as say the batter as say can move out of the way to either protect themselves or as say to try and hit the ball. They don't need to stand still and let the ball hit them. On the other hand, as an umpire, you need to be really careful, about judging the position that the batter is in when the bowler releases the ball, because that is when a no ball is actually judged from. So you might get a batter that steps into the path of the ball, and because it would have been in the correct place, when the bowler released the ball, then that would be called it would be a good ball. They can't turn a good ball into a no ball by stepping into its path.
Okay, thank you. So again, I'll just open the floor if anyone has any questions around the body ball. Okay, I'll just move on. So question 4 is around obstruction. So this is a 2-part question. So we'll do part 1 first. So a fielder and a batter both running for a post. The fielder gets there first and stumps the post, then collides with the batter. Would that still be considered obstruction and half-rounder to the batting team?
I think obstruction is a really important one, for an umpire to get their head around. What you need to ask yourself is actually what happened first. Was the post actually touched before the collision was made? And once you've made that decision, then you can make the right call. If if in this case, the batter was stumped out fairly, and that means that they didn't have to either slow down to get to the post, or they didn't have to change from their chosen running track, then the batter would be out. And once the batter is out, then that phase of play is finished. So any obstruction beyond the post would not count. If, however, an umpire deemed that it was a deliberate collision and obstruction, then possibly you'd have a word with the fielder about unsporting play. But no, once you're out, you cannot then be awarded an obstruction once you're out.
Lovely. And then just to kind of move on from that bit then, so part 2, so what score is made if the batter scores a half or full rounder and then collides with the fielder on the 2-meter line?
So this is the opposite to part 1. You can be obstructed at any point once you've scored a half or a rounder on the 2-meter extension line, and that includes at 4th post. So if you've made the score and then there's an obstruction, you will get both the score and you will get the obstruction. And remember, when you're obstructed, it actually gives you a free run to the post that you're going to, and you can't be out at that next post.
Lovely, thank you. So are there any questions around the obstruction rule? No? Okay. So with regards to verbal obstruction, how does the rule vary for the penalty for verbal obstruction by a batter on the track to a waiting batter?
Right, so this again is almost it's like a 2-part one. So if the verbal obstruction or a batter who is in either out or is waiting to bat as cause an unfair advantage, by using a verbal obstruction, then they would basically give half a rounder to the fielding team, and any score made on the track would be declared void, because an unfair advantage was gained. If you got a runner on the track that verbally obstructs, then they would be out, and again any score would be declared void. There's one other little scenario I know that sort of came in as an additional question. That is, if someone hit a ball very high, and the non-live batter intentionally slowed down their run to try and prevent, as say, the fielder from taking a catch. Again, as say that would be deemed as say, if it was intentional, as trying to gain an unfair advantage. So in that scenario, the non-live batter on the track would be given out, and the score by the live batter would be declared void.
Lovely, thank you.
I've just got a question in the chat there from Vicky.
Okay.
What sort of thing would class as a verbal obstruction?
It could be anything trying to gain an unfair advantage, you know, sort of shouting over there, or maybe, as say, shouting just as the bowler's trying to release the ball. Anything really, as say, that is trying to put off the opposition or to try and gain an unfair advantage.
Are there any more, Rachel?
That's the only one in the chat. Let me just look along the no hands up. No.
Okay. So question 6 around the umpire call. So when should the half rounder score be called by the batter's umpire?
So it's the batter's responsibility, I say batter's umpire's responsibility to call out the half rounder, which you can score at either second post or at third post. But you shouldn't call out the half rounder until such a time as either the bowler's got control of the ball in the bowling square or no further score can be made. So in effect, to say, if the post in front has been stumped, say, and the live batter is in contact with the previous post, once either of those two things have happened, then, as say, the umpire can call out that half rounder.
Lovely, thank you. Are there any questions, Rachel?
No.
No. So question 7. This one has been debated in schools quite a lot around stumping. So some schools play the rule that if a fielder throws the ball to the post and base, similar to cricket, and the ball successfully hits the post and base, then that batter is out. Other schools play the rule that if the ball is in the fielder's hand and this makes contact with the post or base, then the batter is out. What is the correct way to stump a batter out?
This one made me laugh because it sounds like you can still run around the pitch and actually stump the batter with the ball, which when I first started playing, I think was actually in the rules. But basically, it's ways to stump a post. And no, I say, unlike in cricket, I say the ball has to be in the hand, I say, when the post is stumped. But you can use the front of the hand, you can use the back of the hand, anywhere up to the wrist. If you do stump the post above the wrist, first post, to say, is quite often guilty of doing this. If they're in a rush, then that would count as an obstruction because you stumped a post illegally, and to say it would be a half rounder scored. The other thing you're not allowed to do, obviously, is pull the post towards you with one hand and then stump it with the other. Ways that you can stump the post: if the post and the base are in their correct position, then you can stump either the post or the base. If the post is removed, as say, from the base, then, as say, you'd need to stump, as say, the base. If both the base and the post are removed from the spot, then, as say, you'd either need to stump, as say, the spot where they were, or, as say, the batter would have to touch the spot, as say, with the bat. So in effect, if fourth post, if they were removed and the batter came in and stumped the post, and, as say, the fielder stumped the spot, then the batter would be out.
Lovely, thank you. I'll just open the floor again if there are any questions around the stumping rule. No?
No questions, Sian.
Okay, thank you. So question 8, the batting square. So there's just a request around the clarification on stepping out the front of the square. If the batter steps out of the batting box to hit the ball, the first action of stepping out of the front of the square would deem the batter out. But if the batter hits the ball at exactly the same time as stepping out of the front of the box, then can the batter continue to run out of the front and continue to face the post?
The same time is okay, because they say that the rule actually states to say that you must not step out the front of the batting square before you hit the ball in the rule book. The important thing is that the batter has 2 feet in the box before the bowler releases the ball. The bowler's not allowed to bowl until the batter is ready. If they do so, then it'll be a void ball and everyone goes back to the posts again, and the ball is replayed. A batter is allowed to step out the side of the box to play the ball, but they're not allowed to step out at the front or the back of the box, either on a good ball or a no ball, until either they've hit the ball or missed it or let it pass. So as an umpire, it takes quite a lot of practice, because you've really got to try and watch carefully as to which happened first, to say, did the step happen or did the contact happen? But at the same time is okay. And once you've hit the ball, you can lead the square in any direction at all.
Lovely, thank you. So I'll just pause a moment there as well. Okay, so question 9. So if a batter leaves first post early on a backward hit, what action should the umpire take?
It's very tempting, I say, for a batter to try and gain advantage, I say, to lead the post early. So as an umpire, you need to be really watching, because they're not allowed to lead the post to say while the ball is still in backward play. So the ruling is that the umpire would ask the batter who left early to move back to first post, but the fielders can still continue with their play. The only time this wouldn't be the case is if the backstop does a dummy throw, which isn't allowed. In that situation, all the batters on the running track would have to go back to their post, and the umpire would ask, say, the backstop to retain the ball until everyone was back at their post.
Has it been on 15 minutes?
But do remember as well, as say, that if a backstop or another player, if the ball is in a backward area, if fourth post is touched, then as fourth post is on the line, that does put the ball back into the forward area again.
Lovely, thank you. Rachel, Julia, have you got anything in the chat regarding the last few questions?
No.
Okay, then, so question 10, around leaving the post early. So when is a player out for leaving a post early, or in what circumstance does the umpire ask a player to move on to the next post?
This could be quite a long answer, because there's quite a lot of variations in this one. But basically, a batter is out if they lose contact with a post, either prior to the ball leaving the bowler's hand, or when the bowler has possession of the ball in the bowling square. In either of those scenarios, if they let contact, to say, with the post go, then as say, it is batter out. But the situations in play where an umpire will ask a batter to move on to the next post. There's various situations. I'll just name a few of them. It might be, as say, for example, as say that the batter has failed to make contact with the post before they've crossed the extension line. And in that situation, they're actually not at that post. They'll be on their way to the next post. They're not out. To say, all the umpire would say is, please move on to the next post, where they might get there safely, or as if the fielders are switched on, as say they might stump them out, as say, at that next post. It might be a case of say that they've lost contact with the post while they're over the extension line. And again, the umpire would ask them to move on to the next post. It might be that they're leaning the post, to say, once they're over the extension line, so that they may be in contact, but if they're leaning the post, again, the post and the base needs to be upright, so they'll be asked to move on to the next post. And final one, there's a couple more. It might be a say that they're waiting between posts, so you can't actually loiter and wait. You can time your run, but you can't, to say, actually physically wait between posts. Again, then the umpire would ask them to move on to the next post. And the last one is if you've got two batters at the same post, an umpire would wait until both batters are at the post, and then the batter that got there first would be asked to move on to the next post, where they might get there safely or be stumped out, as say, depending on their luck and how switched on the fielders are. But sometimes, as say, umpires will ask people to return to a post. It's not just move on to a post. They might ask them to return to a post. For example, if there's a void ball, if a bowler had bowled before a batter was ready, a dummy ball, again, we talked about on the backward hit, if the backstop pretended to throw the ball, or if the bowler has the ball under control in the square and they've gone past a post, because you're only allowed to run as far as a post when the bowler has the ball in the square. Or again, as we discussed, if they leave first post early on a backward hit. So quite a long answer, but I say there's quite a few answers to it.
Just to let everyone know as well, Sue's kindly completed the document with the questions, so you will be sent the answers after this webinar. So if you're not quite keeping up with all the answers, don't worry, we will send out the document afterwards. And are there any questions around leaving the post early? No?
No.
Quiet bunch. We'll move on to question 11. So this is about fourth post. So all batters are required to touch fourth post to complete the run or the score around the track. What action and decision should the umpire take if neither the batter nor fielder makes contact with fourth post before the bowler is ready to bowl to the next live batter?
This is always quite a fun one as an umpire, because as I say, you've probably got someone that's done a really good hit, they've dashed around the pitch and they're celebrating getting their rounder. But as an umpire, you can't call out any score until, let's say, that fourth post has been touched. So you'd sort of loiter around by fourth post, not saying anything, I say, I usually leave it about sort of 10, 15 seconds. And in that time, if the batter realizes and comes back to touch fourth post, then it's rounder scored. If the fielding team realise first and they stump the post, then it's batter out. If none of them realise, then you go back, call in the next batter, and at the completion of the next play, you'd say previous batter, home safely, but no score made.
Thank you.
Hang on. One other bit I can add to that is if you've got the situation where you've got the non-live batter that doesn't touch fourth post and you've got the live batter coming in behind them, the live batter in effect bumps the non-live batter in, so the live batter can still score even though a batter in front of them on the track didn't touch fourth post.
Lovely, thank you. So question 12, this is the side out rule. So the ball is thrown full pitch into the batting square to end an innings. What does it mean by the ball being thrown full pitch?
Well, any player can do this, to say, on the team. It means, to say, to end the innings, and that's when no batter is waiting to bat. You know, there might be just one batter left, or there might be two batters running around, or three batters running around, but nobody has actually reached fourth post. Being thrown full pitch means that the ball, the first contact, has got to be made within the batting square. That does include the lines, but it must be within the batting square. It can't bounce out and then bounce into the square again. This action puts, to say, all the batters out, to say, on the running track. So there'll be no score made by the live batter. So it's a really important way to actually end, to say, a match. If, say, the fielding team just return the ball back to the bowler, or, say, keep the ball on the post, then, say, the game is still declared over because no batters can run on, but they retain any score. So it's really important, to say, to make sure that side out is achieved, to say, through throwing the ball full pitch into the batting square, unless, remember, it's a no ball, because, to say, on a no ball, unlimited ball, it would mean that one good ball would still be left. So you'd need to stump the live batter.
Lovely, thank you.
Can I just ask on that one?
Yep.
Throwing in, I mean, does the ball, if it lands in there, it's touched, it has to land, stop and stay in the batter's box? Or
No,
just
it just has to make first contact in there. So it might say be thrown in from the deep, and if someone's got a really accurate throw and it lands in the box first, that's quite adequate. It might literally be physically placed by hand in the box. It's where the first contact lands.
contact, so it doesn't actually have to stop and stay in there, because the chances of that are slim unless it's placed. That's good to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Are there any more questions about the side out rule, Rachel?
No, not that I can see.
So question 13 is about the bowl in action. So can a bowler make a full circular motion before releasing the ball through a pendulum motion?
Now, again, quite an easy one to answer. It's got to be a smooth underarm pendulum action, although this changed to say a few years ago. It doesn't prevent a bowler from raising their arm above shoulder level either before they've released the ball or after they've released the ball, but no swirly circular motions allowed.
Thank you. So question 14 is about the backstop. So what is the penalty and the reason for that penalty if the backstop steps forward off the backstop line before the ball has passed the batter? So
the backstop line was introduced to say for safety, because a lot of backstops were getting far too close to the back and their teeth were in imminent danger of being removed. So the backstop line now, basically, if the backstop crosses the backstop line before the batter has hit the ball, missed the ball, or let the ball pass them, it would be half a rounder for obstruction, and as I say, the batter would have a free run to first post.
Okay, thank you. So question 15, so bowling to the batter. If the batter stands at the edge of the batting square, so their arm and bat are outside the square, where should the bowler aim their bowl?
Well, first thing is that the batting square is purely for the batter to stand in. It has no relation at all to make it to say where the bowler has to bowl to, or say in relation to a no ball. It's purely for the batter to stand in, and the no ball is judged from the batter's position at full standing height, remember. So if a batter comes in slightly squat into the batting square, as an umpire, you've got to imagine what their full standing height would be. So in actual fact, to say a ball above the head, if say a player is squatting down, would be a good ball, because you judge it from the batters from their full standing height. So a bowler can't bowl, say, until a batter is ready, but as say once that batter is ready and the ball is released, then as say the batter can still move to hit the ball, but an umpire is always judging as say the no ball from that rectangle, which is formed as say from the player's full standing height down to their knee. A wide ball would be outside an outstretched arm, outstretched bat, and the body ball would be one that would physically hit the batter in the position they were standing in when the ball was released. And obviously the bowler has got to bowl to the side of the body as well, not to the opposite side.
Lovely, thank you. It's just to confirm, we've got a few videos that Julia's putting into the chat, so around the side out rule and the bowling to the batter in the batting square. So those links should be available in the chat for you, and are also available on our website.
Can they be circulated with the notes as well afterwards?
Yeah, we can definitely send that for you. That's not a problem. Are there any questions around the question 15 answer before I move on? No? So question 16 is around the bowling square. So the bowler who maintains possession of the ball in the bowling square can stop play. What if they leave the square and another fielder takes possession of the ball in the bowling square? Does this stop play, or does it have to be the bowler with the possession in the box?
So unlike the side out, where any player can throw the ball, say, into the batting square to end that innings, only the bowler is allowed to have possession of the ball in the bowling square, and the ball has to be in their hand. So if they were in the square and the ball was on the ground, that isn't counted as having control. They are allowed now to juggle the ball from hand to hand. That would still be counted as control. But if they left the square and another player came in, then in effect to say play could carry on. So unless to say the live batter had already been prevented from making any score, any further score, play would carry on until, as say, the bowler was back in the square in possession of the ball. So no, only the bowler in that situation.
Lovely, thank you. So question 17 is around bowler substitution. So what are the bowler substitution rules for the bowler with the ball in the bowling square?
So a bowler substitution can be made at any dead ball situation. So you might have a bowler that's not having a very good day, perhaps it lost some confidence, or you've got a couple of bowlers and you want to switch. If you're subbing a bowler, obviously you'd have to ask the umpire first to say to do it. Any bowler that's coming in would start on whatever bowler, say, the outgoing bowler left. So for example, if they bowled a no ball, the new bowler coming in is not allowed a practice ball, and they would start on one no ball. So as long as it's to the same batter, if their first ball was a no ball, that would be half a rounder, say, immediately. Remember that bowler must start their action with 2 feet within the back line. The lines are part of the bowling square again, but they must start with 2 feet inside the back line. They're not allowed to step out the sidelines as part of their action, and they must have released the ball before they cross, say, the front line of the bowling square. And obviously not allowed to do a dummy ball at all.
Lovely, thank you. Just check there's nothing in the chat around bowler substitution rule. If anybody's got any additional questions about that. No. So last batter. There are 2 batters left in. The non-live batter is currently on second post. The live batter receives a no ball, which is not taken. The non-live batter runs and is put out at third post. How many balls is the live batter now entitled to receive, and why?
Right, the live batter would only be entitled to receive 1 further good ball. The reason being is, say, that the phase of play had already commenced. So there were 2 players left to say when that phase of play started. So they'd be entitled to say to 1 good ball. If they then managed to get round and touch fourth post, they'd then be entitled to say to have 3 good balls. Or if you're playing limited ball, they'd only be entitled to have whatever balls were left of that innings. So for example, if you're playing a 20 good ball innings and you are on ball 19, they'd only have the choice of 2 good balls. For every good ball that they don't take, 1 ball would be crossed off as, say, the off the ball number.
Lovely, thank you. And then just the last question, just around the umpiring position. So batters umpires initially position themselves on the first post side of the pitch to make the decisions, and then move towards fourth post if required. So should they start on fourth post side of the pitch if the batter is left-handed?
No, the answer is to say that the batter's umpire should always stay on the side nearest to first post to say when the bowler releases the ball. It's quite easy to judge height. It's the wide and the body balls which is more difficult to judge. So the batter's umpire stays on their correct side because they need to be able to judge a decision, to say, on first post, and then they would move towards fourth post once, to say, the batter had passed first post. The umpire that would need to move, is the bowler's umpire. So it's always really important to say that they reposition themselves so they're behind the bowler's arm to be able to judge, as say, the wide ball or the body ball. And they must do that, say, so the fielders don't have to get out of the way of the umpire. It's the umpire that has to work around the fielders.
Lovely, thank you. So that was the final question that we had prepared for this evening. Has anyone got anything that they'd like to come on the floor?
Could question 6 just be repeated, please? The umpire call.
Question 6. So when should the half rounder score be called by the batter's umpire?
Yeah, that's it was just. Could it just be clarified with it being the batter's umpire? just that question be repeated by you and by Sue.
Yeah. So Sue, question 6. When should the half rounder score be called by the batter's umpire?
It's the bowler's umpire, not the batter's umpire.
Sorry,
Yeah.
bowler's umpire. Apologies.
The batter's umpire has responsibility for first and fourth post, and as saying the bowler's umpire responsibility for second and third post. But if one of the other umpires spots something, then it'd be their duty just to go over and have a quiet chat with the other umpire and say, I saw such and such. But ultimately, it's the umpire that has to say the decision on the post where the whatever the thing happened, to say that actually has the final say over the decision.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Nick.
Got a hand
Hi,
up.
Nick.
Hi, good evening, Sue. Just to
Hello, Nick.
clarify on the obstruction, if I'm running to first base and I'm in, but I've been obstructed, can I safely move to second?
It depends where you're obstructed. If you're obstructed before the extension line, then as say you're technically still at first post, so you would get your half rounder for obstruction. If you're obstructed as say and you cross the extension line after first post, then technically you're on your way to second post, so you get your half rounder for obstruction and you'd have a free run to second post.
So I wouldn't need to run like a mad woman to second. I could just stroll to second, knowing that I've been obstructed after that point, and it's a free, so I can stroll to second.
Knowing you, strolling is not in your name. You'd be charging to second post regardless.
I would, just in case, but in theory,
Yes.
you're free to go. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick. Are there any more questions, Rachel, Julia?
Can't see any.
No.
Can I just ask something? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go on, Claire.
So when you're at the end, when you're if you've got one last batter and you're throwing it into the box, if I'm assuming that if it's the same time as if the batter gets round to fourth and it's the ball's thrown into the box and it's the same time, I'm assuming it's in favour of the batter, is it?
It's one of those scenarios when you're thinking, please don't let this happen, because it's much easier when you've got a nice clear decision. But no, you're absolutely right to say it's always within the rules to say that if say it's the same time stumping a post between a fielder and a batter, that the batter always gets the decision. It's the same as say with the box and fourth post, and it's quite a difficult one to be able to having your eyes sort of watching both at the same time. So it's important that both umpires are really watching carefully.
Yeah, thank you.
Lovely, thanks, Sue. Thanks, Claire.